everybody. Welcome to the PIC'L series. My name is Kristina. I'm your teacher and facilitator today. And today we're going to be talking about postpartum care, the fourth trimester. I'm super happy to be here with you this morning, and I hope that you get all of the information that you need. We are here for you, and we're going to be bringing you lots of great evidence-based information for you to be supported in the postpartum period. Whether you've recently had a baby, if you're a father, if you're a caregiver, if you're a grandmother, anybody in a support of a mom in the postpartum period will definitely get some good information from this session. So, Postpartum Essentials. The journey continues after the baby is born. Yes, it does. It is known as the fourth trimester. We've been growing this baby for 9 months, depending if you go full term. Sometimes we don't always go full term. Pregnancy can look different for everybody, but the goal is at least 40 weeks. That is considered a full-term pregnancy. But it is what you do after your baby arrives. You've waited, you've anticipated, you've wondered, you've imagined all the things, and everybody has had all this anticipation for this little baby to arrive, and the moment is here. You have your newborn. Hopefully you are elated and blissful and all the things. And now you're like, what do I do now? My baby is here. What is next? So I'm here to help you navigate this beautiful, but sometimes very difficult period that is known as the fourth trimester or postpartum, and what you should know in order to make sure you're supported and cared for. And also some things that can help save your life if they come up. So please make sure you pay attention, take some notes. And again, let me know if you have any questions or thoughts in the chat. I'll be more than glad to answer your questions. So let's get started. Support. Let's talk about support. We have a lot of support when we're pregnant. Everybody is, the moment you pee on a stick, you get your positive pregnancy test, everybody's doted on you. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, congratulations. La 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 la. What can we do? Nobody wants you to open your door. Nobody wants you to comb your hair. You can't even microwave a cup of noodles at this point, because everybody's doting on you and making sure that you have everything you need. But what happens in the postpartum period? And it can be often said, once you have your baby, all the excitement kind of weans off, and everybody's super focused on the baby and their arrival, and they're doting over the baby. But what about the mom? Mothers need a lot of support after they have the baby, because your body is going through such a massive change. Almost immediately after you have your baby, your hormones do a massive fluctuation in levels in your body in order to support the delivery of the placenta. Also changing to transition your body to be able to make breast milk. And you undergo a mental and emotional shift as well. Your oxytocin is super high, and then all of a sudden it drops, and your body is just trying to get back into the swing of things. And that can take a lot of mothers into a frenzy if they are not prepared and have real life guidance on what this is like. Support can look different. It can come from your friends, loved ones, such as mom and dad, husband, your partner, but it is most essential during the postpartum period. And I like to encourage my moms to build a team early so that you have a plan in place. So a birth plan can help you in the postpartum period by helping you map out who might cook, who does the laundry, who takes the other children to school and picks them up, how you get to your doctor's appointments. It can look like who is going to rotate the baby, not rotate the baby, but who's on shift with the baby at night. It could look like a lot of different things, but having a blueprint and a plan will help you feel secure and mentally and emotionally prepared in the postpartum period, rather than just figuring it out as you go. I know things happen and this can be a very fluid document, but if everybody is on the same page and kind of know what it looks like, it can definitely help just make this transition period a lot easier. Support can also mean not just the mom. It can Support is essential for the entire family. When we're adding a new person to the family, it's a lot for everybody, especially when you're talking about older siblings who are having to get used to a new baby and how it changes their life. So just having a plan in place for preparing older siblings. For dads, a lot of times dads need a lot of support, and they are often left out of the conversation in postpartum care and support. But dads feel a lot of emotions as well. They have specific needs and they have different expectations. And that is definitely something that families need to talk about and make sure that dads have the care that they need as well. And then you, as mom and dad, need to have that intimate conversation about what you need in order to prevent a lot of misunderstandings or problems from coming up. And this is how you also keep your relationship strong, whether it's you and your husband or your boyfriend, whether it's you and your mother-in-law, whether it's you or your best friend, just letting people know what realistic expectations are. And again, having that birth plan can help outline a lot of these things. So we'll probably get into this a little bit more further on in the slide. So just stay tuned, but I will come back around to what support and expectations can look like in the postpartum period. So after you have your baby, for the first 6 weeks after you have your baby, again, your body is doing a lot of different things. You're going through a major hormonal shift. You're probably going to be sore a little bit, depending on if you've had a C-section or a vaginal birth, if you had any tears, if you had a episiotomy, if you've had a long labor, if you had a short labor. And then it also depends on where you may have had your baby. If you had your baby at a hospital, or if you had a home birth or a birth center birth, your postpartum care is going to definitely look different. And your check-ins with your care provider will also vary as well. Nonetheless, it is recommended that you go and check in with your OB within 3 weeks of giving birth, after you've been discharged from the hospital, and to have consistent check-ins with your care provider the first 12 weeks postpartum. When you are going with to your care provider for your check-in, you're going to be scheduling your annual GYN checkup. You're going to get your postpartum exam at 6 weeks to check and make sure that everything is healing correctly. When you have a home birth, a lot of times the midwife will come to your house and do all of this at home. With home birth midwives, they generally come in within 24 hours postpartum. They're going to check your blood pressure. They're going to make sure that your uterus is tightening up. They're going to check and make sure that baby is latching on properly. And they're going to check your basically everything that you will be experiencing when you go into the office. A home birth midwife will be able to do that at home. If she has a birth assistant or a monitress, they will also be able to do this. And if you have a doula, your doula will also come in and check on you as well. You can also have a doula come and check in with you at the hospital if you have your baby as well. So you'll be having a lot of people put their eyes on you within the first couple of hours and the next 24 hours postpartum. What you want to also do when you have your baby and you go to your check-in with your doctor or midwife, they will probably want to talk to you about how you're feeling. And when they talk about how you're feeling, it doesn't necessarily always mean just physically. We're going to be looking at how you feel emotionally, what's going on in your head, what are your needs, what are your concerns, how can you best be supported. And we also want to check in with your family, your care team, your husband, your partner. Hopefully they'll also be checking in with little sister. Big brother or big sister, to check and see how you can, as a family, be supported as well. And when you go to your check-in, write down your questions and concerns. I've seen mothers that I've supported as their doula take really copious notes. They might do feeding logs. They might track their bleeding, postpartum bleeding. They track their meals, what they had to eat. It just depends on the mom, but you can never take too many notes. You can never have too many questions. And if you have a doula, your doula may be able to answer a lot of these questions beforehand as well. So again, making sure your support team is robust. I highly encourage having a doula with you when you have your baby, whether it's at the hospital, home, or a birth center. Even if you have a super good care team, with your mother-in-law, your best friend, your dad, a doula does not, nobody takes the place of a doula. So I'm definitely a big proponent of having a dedicated doula that can support you in your birth, because they have a unique set of skills that everybody else doesn't have. So that's just an extra layer of care and security when you have your baby. So definitely check into having a doula. Let's get to this next slide. So physical recovery. Again, you're pushing out this baby, or you may be going through surgery via cesarean section if that's the way your birth had to take place. Nonetheless, you are recovering on a large scale, because having a baby is a lot. Growing a baby for 9 months is a lot. Your body goes through an incredible amount of change. Your organs have shifted. Your hormones are different. Everything, your whole movement, the way you can move and maneuver your body is different in pregnancy, and it's no different postpartum. So let's talk about some of the physical changes that you deal with after. You're going to probably, if you did have a vaginal birth, of course, you're going to be a little tender and sore. This is probably going to be more pronounced if you had any tearing, or if you had an episiotomy. That's definitely going to change how you feel there. You've been growing a baby and your body is getting ready to feed your baby. So you're going to feel a lot of breast fullness or engorgement after you have your baby. Normal breast engorgement right after you have your baby, that's to be expected. The first maybe 2 or 3 days after you have your baby, you're going to have colostrum. Colostrum is going to come in very small amounts. And it's made to be in small amounts because your baby's tummy is really little the first 2 or 3 days after birth. As you go along in weeks, your baby's tummy will grow a little bit bigger, but about a month postpartum, your baby's tummy is still only about the size of an egg. But going back to the postpartum engorgement, usually with the normal vaginal birth, around maybe day 3 or day 4 postpartum, you are going to wake up one morning or in the middle of the night, and all of a sudden your breast may go from a B cup into like a triple E because your breasts have figured out, okay, it's time to rock and roll. Let's get this baby fed. So your body's going to be your breasts are going to be full of milk, and your baby's demand for feeding is going to definitely go up. So your body is trying to compensate and make sure that we have an adequate, a robust and abundant milk supply. What we don't want with breast engorgement is consistent breast engorgement, especially if we're talking a week and a half, 2 weeks postpartum. If you are consistently overfull, if you have really hard spots, warm or hot spots in your breast, or if you're feeling, just not well, that might be a sign of engorgement. So that means that we need to work on making sure the baby is latched on properly and that we are having a good milk transfer from breast to baby. So that's where a doula can come in. That's also where a lactation specialist, such as an IBCLC or a lactation consultant, can come, and either you can go visit them in the hospital, or if you have an in-home provider that can come to your house and do a feeding assessment to make sure that your breasts are adequately passing on milk to your baby so that we can protect your milk supply. The other thing we're going to experience is uterine contractions. This is your body's way to make sure that we are getting that uterus nice and tight. Your uterus is super big when you're pregnant because you've just had a huge, a big old baby in there. But what we're wanting to do is get that uterus back down to about the size of your fist. All right. We are wanting to make sure that uterus is nice and tight to prevent postpartum hemorrhaging. So when you're latching your baby on after birth, when you're latching your baby onto the breast, a lot of times it can be not so comfortable. It is not always the most, it's not a great feeling. It's reminding you of what it was like being back in labor, but that is your body's way to make sure that your uterus is tightening. The reason why you may feel those uterine contractions when you latch your baby onto the breast is because your body is releasing oxytocin, which pushes the milk out from your breast, your milk ducts to the nipple. That's how that milk flows from your breast to the nipple and into your baby. That same hormone also tightens up your uterus. So every time you put your baby to the breast, you are protecting yourself against postpartum hemorrhaging and getting your uterus to go back to its normal size. This is why I encourage breastfeeding. It's more than just feeding your baby, but it's literally protecting mother as well. Even if you are not feeding directly at the breast, if you are pumping, that is also another way that you can stimulate that oxytocin in your breast, from your breast, but also down to your uterus as well. So, and then hand expressing can also help get that oxytocin moving to protect against that hemorrhaging and getting your uterus back down tight. You will probably experience night sweats. Again, that's due to the hormonal shift. You have a lot of things going on. So just making sure that you are comfortable at night. I highly encourage wearing more natural fibers for your pajamas, like cotton or linen, things that are breathable instead of polyester or really thick, silky kind of materials. Try to get things that are breathable. Keeping a fan on if you're hot. And then also just being mindful of your baby's temperature as well. We don't want to overdress I know you've probably been told, oh, you got to keep the baby warm, put the blankets on, put the onesie on, put the what do you call it? The little zip up bodysuit on, put the hat on the baby. But we also want to make sure that we're not overdressing the baby as well. So just staying cool to where it's comfortable for you, and making sure that you have adequate hydration, keeping water next to your bed, making sure that you have a good temperature in your house. You don't want it, sub-zero. I know a lot of people like to keep it super cold, but you also have to keep in mind that you have a newborn who is made to stay very close to mom, their caregiver, and their ability to regulate their temperature is still very immature. So you want to make sure that you're also protecting your baby as well. The other thing that you want to be mindful of is bleeding and other vaginal discharge. You will, even if you've had a C-section, you will still have postpartum bleeding. This is called lochia, and you're going to see it immediately postpartum. It's gonna definitely be a bright red. But what we're wanting to see as the days go by, we're wanting to see it get more of a kind of a brick red color and get lighter and lighter in volume as the days go by. If you are filling up pads 2 or 3 days after birth, if you're experiencing something like that, if you have a foul odor or just something that does not quite look or smell right, that can usually be a sign of infection. And that is something that you want to get seen about immediately. So do not delay. Call your care provider, call your midwife, go and get checked out, because we don't want a mom hemorrhaging days after birth, and that can happen. It is not uncommon. And then just missing some other things that should have been caught that could have very well have saved her life. So some of the tools you want to have here in the kit is you want to have some cotton rounds, your witch hazel, your peri bottle. More than likely, you'll get a peri bottle in the hospital. They'll give it to you in your postpartum care kit. If you were unfortunate to have to deal with hemorrhoids after you have your baby, I'm sorry for you because it sucks. I've been there. But having some hemorrhoid cream can definitely be a lifesaver. Some numbing spray that you will spray on your vulva to help with some of the discomfort can definitely take away some of the pain. Some pads, you want to get the longest and thickest pads you can because you're going to be bleeding. But again, if you are seeing a copious amount of blood, if you are filling up a whole pad with, those super long, the postpartum pads are going to be super long and thick. If you are filling up one of those pads with a lot of blood 2 or 3 days postpartum, that's not normal. So please keep an eye on your bleeding. And if it doesn't look right, go to your care provider. Again, make sure you get some of the pads. More than likely, they'll give you some at the hospital. If you need extras, you can go to any store. Just get the super long overnight thick pads. They will work in a pinch. I've even seen some moms take some herbs and put them on the pad to kind of give them some relief. And one of the things you can also look for is maybe a perineum balm or a healing salve that you can put down there just to encourage skin healing and protection from herbs that can help relieve some of the discomfort and things like that you will experience. And this is new to me. I've not seen this before, but an inflatable donut. If you are just totally, and I'm guessing that this is what this is, but if you may need to sit on something to take some of the pressure or pain off of your bottom, this can definitely help. I've known moms to use a boppy pillow, or they will use their pregnancy pillow and just fold it in a certain way and sit on top of that. So that can definitely help if you're experiencing any kind of discomfort on your bottom once you've had your baby. Because again, you just pushed out a baby and it's a lot. So you got to give yourself some grace and be patient with yourself. This is where postpartum rest is important. Making sure that you're not running up and down the stairs or going to Walmart 2 days after you've had your baby, or trying to entertain your family and then some and all your friends that want to come over and hold the baby and, sit around and look at you. You really need to be focusing on rest and recovery, getting good sleep, eating well. Your postpartum nutrition is essential. I almost wish that I can add it to this slide, but we will talk more about this in the presentation. But making sure that you are eating well and that you are taking care of yourself is an essential part of postpartum recovery. If something does not feel right, please speak up. We tend to think that the postpartum period ends at 6 weeks. That is false. It takes months to get your body back to normal after you've had your baby. And I don't think that that's talked about enough. Your organs, your mental, your physical and emotional health is going through such a major shift, and we have to give ourselves grace and realistic expectations of what that looks like. There's a lot of things on the internet and things you will see on social media and what postpartum care looks like for everybody, how one girl's body, 2 days after she had her baby, it looks like she was never pregnant in the first place. And then you may have the girl who, is 7 months postpartum and it still looks like she might be 4 months pregnant. Everybody is different. You may have the mom who has like the luxury life and, you have people waiting on her hand and foot, but you also may have a mother who it might just be her and her best friend. Postpartum recovery looks different for everyone, and you have to give yourself grace and honor where you are in this. and not feel like your postpartum healing and timeline is the same for everybody else. It looks totally different for everybody. And you just have to know where you are and honor that and advocate for yourself when and if you need help. So let's talk about, again, I was speaking on this briefly in the previous slide, physical recovery assistance, an episiotomy, which is a surgical cut of the perineum or a tear. The wound will hurt. Unfortunately, it will be painful and it can take some time to heal. I've heard a lot of midwives, and if I have a midwife on the Zoom, please hop in and give your input. But I've often heard from a lot of midwives that they prefer a mother to naturally tear naturally. If she is, of course, we're going to try to prevent that from happening. But if we see that, it is better for her to actually tear on her own versus having to do an episiotomy because of the way that the tissue is cut with the scissors when you perform an episiotomy versus how a mother's perineum will tear on its own. The healing for it, from what I've heard, is different. One of the ways that you can help relieve some of the discomfort from an episiotomy is by getting regular sitz baths and rinsing with warm water. That can help. One of the things that I did personally, whenever I would go to pee, I had that peri bottle ready to go. Right on the back of my toilet, I had about 2 or 3 perineum, what do you call it? Spray bottles ready to go. And every time I went to go pee, I just sprayed the bottle and made sure that cold or warm water just kind of diluted the acidity of your urine, which can sting if not. And it was not very fun. And just having some herbs, sitz baths are made with lots of healing herbs, and you can take it and put it in a shallow bath of water and you'll sit in it and let those herbs go to work. They definitely help. You're going to have some vaginal discharge, lochia, and that will go on for several weeks. Again, the first few days, you're going to have a heavier flow than normal. What we are not wanting to see, and you'll see under this, abnormal discharge or super heavy bleeding. Okay, if you are soaking a pad fully with blood an hour, that is the signal of postpartum hemorrhaging. You want to get help immediately. That is not normal. If you are having any kind of foul odor or discharge, something that does not quite look right. If you are passing clots, okay, if you go to the bathroom, you're looking at your pad or you're looking down at the toilet, and if you are seeing blobs and big clumps of tissue, that is not okay. All right. The other thing that you're going to be looking for with that is if it is 3-4 days postpartum and you are still passing big old clots of tissue and your breast milk is not changing. If you are not seeing a change from the colostrum phase going into the transitional milk phase where your milk is getting a little bit more copious, if you are not feeling your breast volume change, that can usually be a sign of retained placenta tissue. That's when you want to definitely go into your care provider and get that checked out, because any amount of the placenta that is left behind in the uterus can delay your milk production. So we want to make sure that once you have your baby, that all of your placenta is removed from the uterus. All right. And if if even a fragment of your placenta is left behind in the uterus, that can also set you up for infection. And that's what we don't want to happen. Make sure your body temperature and your blood pressure is okay. If you are feeling dizzy, if you are feeling feverish, if you are getting floaters in your eyesight, if you see those little dark spots when you look around the room, if you're dizzy when you stand up, if you feel lightheaded, if you are experiencing painful headaches that will not go away without some kind of intervention that lasts and get worse, that is not normal. get checked out, call your care provider. Okay. If you have access to a blood pressure monitor, especially for my moms who have been deemed high risk, hopefully you may have access to a blood pressure monitor. Check your blood pressure. Keep your eye on that. Follow your care provider's instructions, and make sure that you are tracking your blood pressure. If you don't have one, and if you don't feel right, even if it's the smallest thing, I would rather you go in and bug your care provider than not and ignore the signs and then put your life at risk. Listen to your body. It is okay to advocate for yourself. After you have your baby, you are going to be experiencing some afterbirth cramps. That again is your uterus trying to tighten and clamp back down, get back down to that fist size. And again, when you're putting your baby to the breast and they're suckling at the breast, you will feel some tightening, almost feeling like you were going through labor all over again. But that is a protective mechanism to make sure that we're preventing that postpartum hemorrhaging and also getting that oxytocin flow throughout the body, through the breast and through the uterus, to make sure that everything is doing what it needs to do. So let's talk about the mental and emotional recovery. And while I'm at it, I want to highlight that this is Black Maternal Mental Health Month, I believe, or week. I can't remember if it's month or week, but we were just recently recognizing Black maternal mental health. And this is one thing that I think in the Black community, especially, that we need to talk about and bring to the forefront more. For a lot of us, speaking specifically in a lens of being a Black woman, it is not an easy thing for us to communicate when we need extra support and when we don't feel okay. Historically, we have been told to just pick it up, suck it up, keep it moving, strong Black woman, no matter what, we just do what we need to do and get things done. But that has not always worked out well for us. And we need to shift the narrative about what mental and emotional health looks like in our community so that we can prevent a lot of the maternal mortalities that happen to us. Across the board, one of the biggest causes of maternal deaths is mental health issues. We think that it's postpartum hemorrhaging and other things, but that one of the leading causes, if not the leading causes, is maternal mental health disorders. And this is why we need to talk and pay more attention about it and make sure that moms are supported in the postpartum period. Social pressures can lead to fears of being ostracized and unheard. How many times, especially in our community, again, like I said, we are being told that, girl, you just got to keep on doing what you need to do, get things done. And if you do speak up about it, you can be seen as being weak or not strong enough and, not a good mom. And I think that is a terrible thing to tell other mothers, and that can have a lot of consequences. It is important for you to tell somebody if you are having symptoms of postpartum depression or perinatal mood disorders. And we'll talk a little bit more about the different types of perinatal mood disorders, because when we talk about postpartum depression, that is actually a blanket term. And I want us to move more away from using postpartum depression and instead using perinatal mood disorders, because there are different levels of perinatal mood disorders and they all have their different symptoms and severity. So we need to be aware of that and diagnose and identify correctly instead of just using the blanket term postpartum depression. Ways that you can help, protect yourself against this is by having a support team that is your family members, your friends, a good doula, your midwife, your OBGYN, even your pet. If you have a pet, it can be a good book. It could be a good meal. Anything that is going to help you feel good and get you back to where you are in the postpartum period will definitely help. And again, postpartum is not just 6 weeks. You will be forever postpartum, ladies. Okay. If you've ever had a baby, you are always postpartum. And your postpartum recovery looks different for every single mom. It looks different. It might take you 2 years to feel back to quote unquote normal. You have some moms that it might just take a few days, and that's them. But you need to honor where you are and recognize that and say, this is what my norm is, and this is okay. But when things are not okay, we need to reach out and get the help that we need. All right. So let's talk about the different levels of postpartum mood and anxiety disorders. And that's also known as PMADs. Okay. Um, Postpartum mood disorders. Let's, and this one here would typically be called postpartum depression. All right. This might look like, after mom has a baby, she's crying. You might find her, weeping a little bit. She might be a little whiny. She might have some slight feelings of guilt. Sometimes you can see moms have a little bit of, loss of interest in her baby, kind of not paying as much attention to herself. She might not interact with people as much, which is that social withdrawal. And sometimes she might have intrusive thoughts, which can be possible thoughts of harming herself or her baby. A lot of us, even those of us who are not pregnant, we have intrusive thoughts all the time. How many times have you, maybe stood on a really high building and you looked over and thought about what it would be like if you fell over, or if you were riding down the road and if your car crashed and what would happen? Those are intrusive thoughts. People in general have intrusive thoughts sometimes on a regular basis. When it's a concern, when it becomes a concern is when it is consistently happening and to the point where it's consuming the mother and she feels unable to care for her baby, and you see it getting progressively worse. All right. And when she feels like she does not trust herself to not carry out those intrusive thoughts, or she either becomes extremely protective and obsessed over protecting her baby. That's when we run into a problem, and we want to get that identified and get her help. All right. Postpartum anxiety disorder. Feelings of panic and fear. All right. Consistent worries and intrusive thoughts. Sleeping too much or too little, and loss of appetites. This is common in the postpartum period, again, because you're going through a major hormonal shift. Everybody and everything is moving around. Your normal is not normal anymore. You're trying to figure this out. So a lot of things are happening. All right. Again, these are different levels of scale and different symptoms. We're looking at postpartum psychosis right now. When we start, if you hear mom talking about she's hearing or seeing things that are not there, she hears voices telling her to do something to her baby or to herself. She's having thoughts of harming herself or other people. If she becomes distrusting of other people, if she doesn't want dad to take baby so that she can get a shower, or just to simply get a quick meal, or go into the other room with the baby because she's afraid that the dad or grandma is going to not be able to care for the baby or hurt the baby. If she is confused and just out of her normal, all right, if she's not eating, if she is just kind of wasting away, letting herself go, if we're seeing moms who are having consistent insomnia, they're not sleeping and they're staying up all day, all night, and they're worrying. And when you see all these symptoms compounding on top of each other, this is when this is a red flag. Okay. Sometimes you may experience some of these symptoms, maybe just one of them in combination. But again, when you're seeing these all kind of come together and stack upon each other, that's when we want to be like, oh no, something ain't right. Let's get her some help. Okay. Postpartum obsessive compulsive disorder. Again, when you have moms who just feel really scared about being left alone with the baby, she doesn't trust herself. She has a heightened need to protect her baby. Obsessive thoughts. Oh my gosh, baby's still too cold. Baby's not getting enough food. baby's not getting enough sleep, baby's not gaining enough weight. This is why we also need to be careful about the messages that we are telling mothers about caring for her baby or caring for herself. We have to be very careful about what we're telling her, because depending on her mental state and her confidence on caring for her baby, words have a way of sticking with us. And so words have power. So we have to make sure that we are telling mothers things that are positive. And if we are identifying things that she can need support with, just being mindful of how you present them to her. All right. So those are some of the ways that perinatal mood disorders can show up. Again, when something does not seem right, we are getting her help very fast and making sure that we're having honest conversations with her clinical care providers about what is happening and how to get her the support that she needs. Perinatal mood disorders also affect fathers. I want to be very and abundantly clear that we are not just talking about mothers. Fathers undergo perinatal mood disorders as well. So we want to also have honest conversations about that. And we want to also screen family members and fathers for perinatal mood disorders. And when we identify something that's out of the norm, we are getting them the help that they need as well. So please do not leave fathers out of this conversation. And also checking in with younger and older siblings and making sure they are adjusting to this new family member as well. This is important for everybody and to ensure overall family wellness. So those are perinatal mood disorders. Unfortunately, a lot of our mothers experience traumatic births, and that is due to the culture surrounding childbirth and pregnancy in our country. Unfortunately, the United States has one of the highest rates of maternal and infant mortality in the entire world. Okay. Ethnic minority groups experience the brunt of this, especially Black moms. All right. Birth trauma can look differently across the board. It can mean near-death experiences or what they would call maternal near misses. It can mean a medical intervention. All right. If she was expecting to have a vaginal birth and then found herself being put under very suddenly and undergoing an emergency C-section. If she had a super long and drawn out labor, if she had pain medications that just didn't give her the relief that she wanted, or unexpected side effects. Birth trauma can look differently for a lot of people. If she hemorrhaged, if there was a lot of chaos in the delivery space, if she was, it can look like a lot of different things. The main thing is this: when you have birth trauma, you want to, when you are ready to start processing it, get you a good support team to help you walk through it. This is why I also encourage mothers and families to hire a doula, because what I've often found out is after the mother and the family has the baby, one of the best ways that people process what happened is by talking with somebody who was there and who was able to witness what happened. It's one thing to remember it from yourself, but when you have somebody else who saw everything that was happening that you may not have seen, that other person can help fill in some of the blanks and some of the unknowns that you may not, as a person giving birth, may not have realized at the time. All right. And a skilled doula can help you understand what may have what happened and why it may have happened. When we have unresolved birth trauma, it can make it difficult for a mother and even a dad to bond with their baby. All right. A lot of birth trauma usually comes with a lot of pain and discomfort. So if you have a mother who is dealing with the fact that she came in, for example, if you're dealing with a mom who was expecting to have a natural, unmedicated vaginal birth with all of the, the lights and the candles and this super blissful and zen birth. She was going to have her doula. She was going to be able to get into the water and push on all fours and do everything that she wanted to do. And then suddenly, something went wrong on the monitor, baby's heart rate dropped, and the next thing you know, she's being whisked off to the OR for an emergency C-section. And she's sitting there like, what happened? Why didn't things go the way I imagined them to? All right. And now she is also, as a result, having to recover from a cesarean section, which is major abdominal surgery and the discomfort that comes with that. So there's the physical trauma, but then there's also the emotional and mental trauma on top of that. All of that can affect her negatively when it comes to bonding with her baby. It can affect how she's nursing her baby. All right. If she had, or baby may have had a medical condition where her baby had to be separated from her, if baby had to go to the NICU because baby wasn't doing very well after birth, that she may be separated from her baby for a week. Some babies may be born prematurely or at low birth weight, and they may have to go off to another city to a level 3 NICU. And that may mean that, mom may not have her baby for months on end until that baby is able to be strong enough to be reunited with mother. So that's another form of birth trauma. And unfortunately, in Black communities, this happens, especially talking about premature birth. It happens at a rate that is much higher than any other racial and ethnic group. Black babies tend to be born prematurely and at low birth weight than any other racial group in the country. So this is why having good preconception care and health before you get pregnant, making sure that your body is healthy, that your mental state, your financial state, everything is in more preparation in order for you to get pregnant. And then when you are pregnant, making sure that you have a good care team, you have good housing, you have access to nutritional foods, your mental health, you're well supported, so that we can mitigate a lot of the factors that cause premature birth or babies born at low birth weight. Of course, we don't always have the ideal situation, but if we can try to prevent that from happening as much as possible, then of course we see better outcomes. If you are if you did experience birth trauma, if you had an unexpected situation, again, like for example, if you were wanting to have a vaginal unmedicated birth and you got in there and just found out, you know what, this is too much, I can't do it without an epidural. A lot of moms feel guilty about that. Or if you wanted to have a vaginal birth, but for some reason they diagnose your labor as prolonged, or what they may call clinically failure to progress, and then you have an unexpected C-section, and then you're wondering why, oh my gosh, I wasn't able to push my baby out vaginally, I must be a bad mom. That is not true. Again, knowing what happened, having shared decision making on your birth and having an active role in it can definitely help you have agency and take more of speak up and advocate for your plan of care and what happens to you. And that's a way of also protecting your mental and emotional wellness after you have your baby. And mostly forgive yourself in your time. And that may look differently for different people. And that's again where a skilled mental health therapist, your doula, a good supportive partner, and a good family, and also talking to either your OB or your GY or your midwife who was there when you delivered your baby can help you recover from that. And please, 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 this is not always possible, but try to space out your pregnancies to give your body adequate time to heal before going into another pregnancy. It is genuinely recommended, I want to say at least 2 years, that they try to uh, encourage between pregnancies to give your body time to just get back to normal and get back to, its normal state. All right. What I have seen as a doula, and as a doula who has supported moms who have had birth trauma, and that extended into perinatal loss, when we had a mother who had a baby and unfortunately her baby did not make it. Okay. Sometimes some of the things I see is that mom getting pregnant as soon as possible right away to heal or to help her get over the loss of her infant. All right. That can come with a lot of emotional and mental, um, that can be very hard on a mother, emotionally, mentally, and also physically, because again, we're not giving her mind and her spirit time to heal from that, but also her body enough time to just recover from that previous pregnancy. All right. So again, your mental, emotional, and physical wellness all comes together, and we just need to make sure we're doing everything we can to relieve any type of birth trauma. And then, if we unfortunately experience any of it, just getting the help for the family when it's needed. If you are needing some support, all right, there are so many resources out here. There is actually a fund in the state of Georgia that will pay for free mental health services specifically for mothers. It is not on this slide. I will try to get that information to you and put it in the chat. But these are some of the resources right here. One, the Georgia Black Doula Network. Reach out to us. Let us know if you need help. All right. Let us know what's going on. We will always be there to support and help you, and guide you and give you a warm handoff to the right support system. All right. Postpartum Support International are a phenomenal organization, and they do postpartum mental health and support throughout the world. They have a helpline that you can call, and it's free. These are all at no cost, and they will get you the support that you need and refer you to local and other, even online or virtual mental health and emotional support services. We also have here, for our families who may even be dealing with substance abuse in the prenatal postpartum period, Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, SAMHSA. Their website is samhsa.gov, and also you can go to them and call their number here on the screen, and they will get you the support that you need. So there are an abundance of resources out here, but none of this works if you don't speak up and let someone know you need help. We can talk to you about needing support and all the resources that are out here, but if you don't say anything, nobody will know to help you. It would be nice if everybody walking around could read minds and recognize all of the signs of perinatal mood disorders, but unless the mother feels, or even the father feels, that they are able to speak up and be okay about speaking up, none of this helps. So we need you to really, really talk to people in your circle and let them know that when you're not okay, that you need the support that you need. All right. Closed mouths do not ever get fed. So please don't be afraid of being judged and letting people know that you need support. It is okay to not be okay. All right. Outside of that, that is all I have for you. I hope that this was very helpful to let you know that postpartum recovery, while it is definitely a whirlwind, it does not have to be hard. It does not have to be traumatic. It does not have to be scary. And it does not have to be lonely. We are here for you at the Georgia Black Doula Network. And if you need us, we are here to help in any capacity that we can. And we are so happy and thankful that you decided to join us today for this seminar on postpartum essentials and recovery. Again, I'm Kristina Cheek, site coordinator for Southwest Georgia for the Georgia Black Doula Network, proud mom and community advocate, and here to serve you. And I thank you again. Enjoy your day.
Hi, I'm Miss P. I want to introduce you to PIC'L. No, not this. I'm referring to the Pregnancy Information Circle and Learning Childbirth Education Series taught by community doulas. Come learn with me about pregnancy, birth, and beyond, one bite at a time.